What's up, guys? My name is Muta, and I get to be the lead pastor of Relevant Church, and I'm so glad that you decided to tune in to one of our message replays. I believe that God has a word for you. Hey, listen, if you want to continue to support Relevant Church to be able to produce content that teaches the gospel and leads people to hope, go ahead and give a gift of any amount to giving.thisisrelevant.cc. You can sign up for recurring giving or give a one-time gift, but I want to let you know every gift matters and allows us to take the gospel beyond our community, region, and world. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you are blessed by this message. Peace.
What happens when you're all cried out? What happens when you've done everything that you need to do and your situation is still not changed? You've gone to the doctors, you've talked to the therapist, you've gone to the healing service, you've gone to the pastor, you're all prayed out, yet you still have no answers or no solutions. The situation is still the same. Most people have one of three reactions. Number one, they act like everything is okay. It's all good in the hood. Yet they're carrying shame and bitterness and hopelessness and secret anger or sadness towards God that they never articulate publicly. They just kind of hold it back, and you see them on Sunday morning. How you doing? Oh, I'm good. I'm okay. Well, things are all right. Or maybe they give you a little window into it so that they don't look like they're fake. They're just like, it's been a little tough, but I'm okay. I'm getting through it. Others just simply curse God and forget faith altogether. They begin to call faith a vain superstition because everything that they believed in fell flat in their face. Everything that they hoped for never came through. The faith that everybody said you should have never amounted to anything. So there is no God. It's a vain delusion. It means nothing. God doesn't rescue you. You're all on your own. So figure it out. Then the third way is they just accept defeat. I know a lot of those. They live hopelessly, believing nothing will ever change. And they live life defeated, depressed, and dejected. Let me ask you a question. Which one are you? Or which one are you close to being? We've been in this book, Job, very popular book. Book is all about tragedy. It's all about pain. It's about loss. It's about frustration. It really begs the question, why do good things happen to bad people? Or why do bad things happen to good people? Job has lost everything in the first chapter of the book. Everything. He's lost his children. He's lost his wealth. He's lost his property. He just had a really, really bad day where everything that he held on to, everything that he loved, everything that he worked towards is all gone in one fell swoop. Talk about listening and hearing tragic news. I remember talking to my mentor, my spiritual father. Babe, can you clean these glasses for me? Talking to my spiritual father this week, and we were kind of talking about the book of Job and how bad it can get for some people. And he was telling me about the month that he had many years ago. This is my spiritual father. He says, I remember losing my dad and then losing my brother and then losing my wife and then losing my ministry. 1 month. He says, I went from having the life that everybody dreamed of to moving into a storage unit, me and my 3 boys, that we lived out of. This is just a piece of what Job has gone through. This is just a piece of what issues that he has faced, and his friends show up to support him. They come and they sit with him for 3 days, for a week. And in chapter 3, after a week of silence, after a time of just mourning in silence where you can't articulate even the level of pain that you're in, I wonder if anybody has ever been in such pain and in such loss where you couldn't even speak, you couldn't even cry, you just stayed silent and said, I can't believe this is happening. Where the weight and the pressure was so deep that the articulation of words could not even amount to capture the level of pain that you were in. This is Job. And so after a week in chapter 3, he begins to speak out. He begins to lament. He begins to cry. He begins to share the sheer pain of what he's carried. He is frustrated with life. He's so angry about what's taking place. He's so hurt. He just wants to die. He doesn't want to live anymore. He just wished he wasn't born. We talked about that in week 2. What is it like to carry a level of pain that debilitates you, a level of pain that frustrates your every being, a level of pain that leaves you lost, hopeless? Then throughout the course of the book of Job, I don't know if you've been reading along, others have let me know that they've just went ahead and started reading the book of Job. His friends speak up. He's surrounded by his 3 friends, and they've been hanging with him this whole time, and they've been quiet, listening to him cry, and they finally speak up, and you would think they would have a word of encouragement. You would think they would come alongside of him and say, it's going to be okay. Bro, it's okay. God is still good. God is faithful. Hey, you'll be all right. Hey, listen, we know you've been faithful. We know that you've been loving God. We know that you've been doing right against God. No, they don't console him. They confront him and call him a sinner. They tell him that he deserves everything that he got. They tell him that he's got secret sin that he's hiding because God would not punish those he loved. God would not do this to somebody he loves. God would not allow something like this to happen for somebody who he loves. Job, you must be in the wrong. And some of us, those words have been said to us, well, you wouldn't have had this loss if you wouldn't have. I remember my wife and I grew up in a denomination that was very insular. This denomination that believes that it is the remnant church of biblical prophecy. It is the creme de la creme of God's religious family. And I remember when my wife and I witnessed the amount of biblical inconsistencies in this denomination, in this religious teaching, we decided to walk away towards the true gospel. And I remember every negative thing that happened, parents, loved ones, friends would say, well, if you wouldn't have left, if you wouldn't have walked away. And for some of us, that's what religiosity has been for us. Well, because you made a mistake, God is mad at you. Well, you shouldn't have got into that relationship. That's why you got hurt. Well, you shouldn't have done this because now God is judging you. This is what he's experiencing. This is what he's feeling. And for some of us, nobody has to tell us that. We have this scared view of God that believes that he is this sovereign being that is so aloof from humanity, but only close enough to strike you down when you do something wrong. We sing of him as a loving father, a good father, but in reality, we're scared of him. God, please don't hurt me. God, please don't hurt me. I'm just going to come to church. I'm going to tithe. I'm going to do everything right so that you don't strike me, so you don't hurt me. And then when bad things happen, we ask the question, is God really good? Or maybe we start saying, maybe I'm really bad and God is not pleased with me. His friends, over 20 plus chapters, have been going back and forth with Job with accusations, try to pin him to the wall and get him to admit his fault. Job has been claiming that I've done nothing wrong. I've been faithful. I've walked with the Lord. I've been consistent. I've done what I'm supposed to be doing. And I know God is still good. I know God is faithful. My Redeemer lives, he says. Listen, though he slays me, yet I will still follow him. God is still good. God is faithful. He wouldn't let this happen to me, would he? Would he? In chapter 31, like I told you guys, this was a series to bring your Bibles to. So if you want to follow along, open up to Job chapter 31. If you need a Bible, our house crew may be able to get you one. Just raise your hand. Scroll to it on your phone. Job chapter 31. Job finally gives his last defense. He gives his final arguments. In his final speech, Job presents 16 if I have statements. We'll see them in just a moment. Job, in this moment, begins to challenge God to either condemn him or vindicate him. I've had enough, God. I'm done with you toying with me. Either you're going to condemn me or you're going to vindicate me. Either you're going to show me that you're good or show me that my sin has been so great that you must judge me. Job has entered the court with God and is now challenging a rebuke under oath to God. He puts himself under oath to God. God, if you can prove me wrong, then everything that I've gone through is just. Woo! Job had a moment where he was able to share how he felt. God, my life sucks right now. That's all right. We got to get real with how we feel. Job was able to say, man, the weight of the pain is crushing. That was good. Pain is something every human will go through. So don't apologize for being affected by it. But now Job's conversation has turned to be a little different. Job presents his final case. He's got 6 counts that he feels indicted on. And so he presents them beginning in verse 1 of chapter 31. And can you just imagine it? Job feels like he's in a courtroom talking to the judge, and there's a jury in front of him, and the TV, what are they called? The cameras are watching, and you can see Job sitting there proudly. He says, and he puts himself on the stand. Job says, okay, if y'all want to do this, let's do this. If you guys are going to curse me of wrong, let's do this. If you guys want to come against my character, let's do this. On the count of personal purity, lust, deceit, adultery. What does he say? I have made a covenant with my eyes not to look at a virgin. What is he saying here? He says, listen, when it comes to lust, when it comes to looking at people, because God reminds us, Jesus reminds us that lust and adultery is not just the act, it's the thought in your mind. So he says, on the count of looking at another woman lustfully, on the count of looking at a woman in a way that's inappropriate, I've made a covenant with my eyes. How could I gaze at a virgin? What would be my portion from God above and my heritage from the Almighty on high? Is it not calamity for the unrighteous and disaster for the workers of iniquity? Does he see my ways and number all my steps? Lust, I'm guiltless. He goes on, verse 5, if I've walked with falsehood and my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighed in the just balance and let God know my integrity. If my step has turned aside from the way and my heart has gone after my eyes, if any spot has stuck to my hands, then let me sow and another eat, and let what grows for me be rooted. On the count of deceit, guiltless. Verse 9. If my heart has been enticed toward a woman, if I've laid in wait at my neighbor's door. And then the Bible gets real graphic here. Almost like reading an interesting novel. He says, then let my wife grind for another, and let others bow down on her. Yep, it's exactly what you thought. For that would be a heinous crime. That would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges. For what would be a fire that consumes as far as Abaddon? And it would burn to the root of all my increase. Lust, deceit, adultery, personal purity, I'm guiltless. What else y'all got? Oh, you guys want to come against my professional leadership? Okay, on the count of professional leadership. Verse 13 through 15, if I have rejected the cause of my manservant, of my maidservant, he's talking about his employees, those who work for him, those within his household, when they brought a complaint against me. Hey, listen, when my employees, when my servants came and they brought issues going on in my organization, what then shall I do when God arises, when he makes inquiry? What shall I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the same womb? He says, listen, how can I treat these people wrongly? The same God who made them made me. So if I treat them wrongly, then I'm coming against my God, because I'm saying there's something defective with what you created. So y'all want to come against my personal leadership and my personal integrity? Guiltless. Give me more. Give me more. What else y'all got? He goes on. Verse 16 through 20. If I've withheld anything that the poor desired, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten a morsel alone, and the fatherless has not eaten of it. For from my youth the fatherless grew up with me as with the father, and from my mother's womb I guided the widow. If I've seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or the needy without covering, if his body has not blessed me, and if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep. He's talking about his generosity. I am generous to the poor and those in need. On the account of generosity, y'all can't even come after me, because I go out of my way to serve others and provide for others. I've been like this since I was born. Woo! Job is making a case, Mike. He said, y'all want to come after me? Let's do this. Verse 20, he says, I love the way it says it in the NLT. I believe it's in the NLT. He says, if his body has not blessed me, and if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, he's saying, I've also got proof. I've covered them. Go see the clothes on their back. Go see what they're wearing. Did not that come from my closet? And in verse 21, he adds a little more about how he's loved and cared for those in need. He says, if I've raised my hand against the fatherless because I saw help in the gate, then let my shoulder blade fall off from my shoulder, and let my arm be broken from its socket. For I was in terror of calamity from God, and I could not have faced his majesty. He said, listen, in fact, if I've hurt anyone, let my arm be ripped off of my body. Y'all tracking? Job is making his case. He's got more. He's got more. He says, on the account of idolatry and worship. Verse 24, if I've made gold my trust for called fine gold my confidence, if I've rejoiced because of my wealth was abundant, or because my hand had found much, if I've looked at the sun when it shone, or the moon moving in splendor, and my heart has been secretly enticed, and my mouth has kissed my hand. What he's saying there is like, if I've worshiped the sun and the moon, then also would be this also would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges, for I would have been false to God above. He says, listen, I know my friend Eliphaz earlier has accused me of making my wealth my God, and that's why God has taken it all away. He says, listen, God ain't my goal. My God gives and my God can take away. I know where this came from. I don't hold this too highly in my life. Job says, no, I may have been wealthy, but I never put my faith in money. Nor did I secretly participate in the worship of culture and worshiping of nature, of the sun and moon. I've been a faithful believer. I've not swayed in my allegiance to God. He's got more. Job isn't done yet. On the account of general character and personal responsibility. Verse 33, he says, if I've concealed my transgression as others do, meaning if I have covered my sin like everybody else does, by hiding sin in my heart because I stood in great fear of the multitude, and the contempt of families terrified me, so that I kept silence and did not go out of the doors. Oh, that I had one to hear me. He says, listen, I got nothing to hide. I've got nothing to hide. I live transparently and openly. He's like, I don't fear the opinions of people or need popularity to give me value in life. Popularity does not sustain me. He says, in fact, verse 35, oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Oh, that I had the adversary written, the indictment written by my adversary. Surely I would carry it on my shoulder. I would bind it on me as a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. Like a prince, I would approach him. What is he saying? He's saying, listen, where's my defense attorney? Where's my prosecutor? Where's my judge? I'm ready to seal my defense. He said, here goes my signature. He says, listen, this is stamped and approved. God, I dare you to judge me. Oh, y'all want to? That's what he said. Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Let God bring a charge against me. Let God bring a case against me. And then verse 36. I love the way he says this. He says, surely I would carry it on my shoulder. He says, if God even brought a charge against me, if God, I need y'all to get, Job is mad, Niles. Have y'all heard how hard he's been going? He's gotten to the point, he says, listen, if God brought a case against me, Pastor Lewis, I would put it on my head like a crown. Put it on my head like a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. Oh, God, you want to come against me? Like a prince, I would approach him. He says, even to God, I will come boldly. Come proudly like a prince. What wrong have I done, God? Prove it. Because I'm going to give you the laundry list of all the good that I've done. So you tell me where I went wrong. He thought it was over. As if he remembers something else. He's like, oh yeah, let me give you a little bit more. Let me tell you a little bit more, Tony. Verse 38, if my land has cried out against me and its furrows have wept together, if I have eaten its yield without payment and made its owners breathe their last, let thorns grow instead of wheat and fowls instead of barley, the words of Job are ended. He dropped the mic. I Can't drop this one. It's too expensive. We don't have the budget. He says on the account of stewardship and property management. While everybody else would have forgot about that, everybody else wouldn't have been thinking about that. He was talking about more of his moral integrity, more of his worship. He was like, no. Let's talk about even the inanimate things that I have. Let's talk about my property. Let's talk about the fields. I have not even grazed the fields longer than I should. I have not hurt my land more than I should. I've not yielded what I shouldn't. Even the people who've been working the lands, I've treated them fairly. He says, even if my land accuses me, I can tell you right now, I have not overworked it. Even in how I treat my property, I am honorable. Now, friends and family, the audacity of this man. Well, here goes a question. This is a real question. As I was reading this, it just really dropped in my spirit. Corn, how many of us can make a case like Job? We could have just started from the beginning. On the account of lust, I rest my case. Judge me. Professionally, I cussed out my boss. Okay. Generosity, I don't tithe. How many of us actually have the audacity or can have the capacity to come to God and say, God, look at my life. Give me window into the areas of my life where I've dropped the ball, because the reality is, God, I've done everything right. How many of us can actually come like Job and stand before God and say, God, everything that's happening to me, why is it happening to me? Because I've been good. I've been all good. Check the books. I've got receipts. How many of us can actually come to God and say, God, based on everything that's happening around me, I don't think there's an area where I've fallen short of you. This in itself would be a witness against us. Even trying to come at God in some pious way would be a witness against us. But yet we complain so much. Why, God? Why me? Why me? Chapter 38. It's God's turn. You hear that? Dun, dun, dun. You guys ever watch Law and Order? How it begins? Dun. Oh. God is about to respond, y'all. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, "Whew, I just got chills just thinking of God responding to him." But here's the interesting thing, y'all. When God responds to Job, he doesn't answer any of Job's questions. He doesn't give him perspective of his pain. Well, Job, me and your accuser were having a conversation in heaven, and I talked about how awesome you were and how great you are. And so he said, well, let me touch him. And I said, well, if you must. God reveals the most important piece of the puzzle in Job's situation. Anybody want to guess what he reveals? God reveals himself. I don't want y'all to miss that. Job is saying, why me? What have I done? Bring a charge against me. God does not even respond to him and say, this is what's going on in your life. This is why this has happened. God doesn't respond with an affirmation of, Job, I see you. God does not sit there and try to politic with Job. God just says, you want to know? Here I am. God's a bad dude. You want to know why your life sucks? Let me tell you about me. I love this quote from Dr. Paul Tournier in his book, Guilt and Grace. He says this: God's answer is not an idea, proposition, like a conclusion of a theorem. It is himself. Job has just made 16 if I have statements. God addresses Job with 77 questions and a divine commentary about himself. God was making a point. Hey, buddy, you are not my equal. Let's get something straight. Who you talking to again? Oh, let me tell you who you're talking to. This is what Job said in chapter 13, verse 22. This is how he comes at God, because we think 31 is where he gets reckless. No, it started all the way back in chapter 13. He says, now summon me, and I will answer. He's talking to God. You want me? Come and get me. Or let me speak to you and you reply. So God said, okay, I'll reply. God addresses Job in 3 main questions. Question number 1, can you explain my creation? Question number 2, can you oversee my creation? Question number 3, can you subdue my creation? Let's get that out the way first, and maybe I'll hear your defense. God challenges Job on the account of creation and the created order in chapter 38. Job has been frustrated with God's silence. He's been frustrated why God has not answered his issue. Job has been frustrated with what's going on in his life. And I wonder about you. Are you frustrated with God's silence in your life? Are you frustrated that it feels like you've been going through things and you've been going to God and talking to him and he's not responding, or at least he's not telling you why your situation is? He's not giving you a little peace. He's not giving your mind a little settledness. You don't understand. Maybe you used to connect with God before. Maybe you and God were tight before. But all of a sudden now you've been going through something and you're going to God and you're saying, God, what's really good? What's going on? What's happening with this disconnect? Why have you gone silent with me? And God is silent. Maybe you're frustrated with God right now and God ain't speaking to you. Maybe you're in a situation where you're just like, well, I guess you have nothing to say to me, God. Job is so frustrated that pride gets the best of him in the verses preceding. We talked about lament is different than complaining. Complaining is a problem. Lament is healthy. Lament allows you to release what's inside. Lament is good. It allows you to identify with your pain. It allows you to know that you are human. But his lament has turned to reckless speech towards God. Now he becomes accusatory towards God. Pain has caused Job to become a fault finder towards God, the very thing that Lucifer, Satan, did to God in the council of the sons of God. Satan accused God. Job has become the accuser of God. Satan accused God and accused Job, but Job now accuses God. He's become a critic of God. So God does answer. He does answer. How does God answer? Chapter 38, verse 2. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? And I love this statement: dress for action like a man. Oh, back in the day in hood vernacular, you're feeling froggy, jump. He says, I will question you and you make it known to me. I want you to catch this for a second. Notice God doesn't question the integrity of Job's word. Job has spoken truth, but he's spoken irresponsibly. He's spoken without humility. And how many of us feel that truth is our excuse to sin? This is a little commercial break. Well, I just got to tell it like it is. Well, I'm just real. Well, I just speak my mind. This is just the way I am. I've just got to say what I need to say. Truth is not an excuse to sin. Do you know that our truth can be invalidated by our heart? It doesn't matter how real you're being. If you're being an a-hole, ain't nobody listening. You will be dismissed immediately. A lot of us want to feel like we can say whatever we can say because this is just my truth. This is what I'm going to stand on. And you're going to hear a piece of my mind. And at the end of the day, I'm just real. No, you're an a-hole. Sorry if that offended people. We see it. We see it all through politics. People feel that they can say whatever they want to say about the other people. And it's just like you wonder why they're not listening to you. Yes, what you may say may be truth, but the way you're saying it invalidates the very truth that you're saying. So now you are also living in sin. Truth is not an excuse to sin. Man, we ain't got time. I could have gone, I could have. God says, okay, you got a problem with me. You got a problem with me. Dress for action. God challenges Job to a duel. Isn't that wild? This is the God of heaven and earth, Tony. He said, listen, you want some? Get ready, get ready, get ready. We can do this. But isn't God's grace incredible that even in the moment of Job's foolishness, even in the moment of Job's utter stupidity and audacity to come against God, God says, okay, let's talk. God doesn't just strike him down in that moment. Takes away our idea of the mean God sitting in heaven. God says, all right, let's have a conversation then. Let's have a conversation with them. Explain the way the world works. I'm going to read it to y'all because I think it's pretty dope. I'm not going to preach it to y'all. I'm just going to read you what the text says. This is God's words, and he can speak for himself. This is the first one. I just sit down if I was Job. I was like, Where were you when I had laid the foundation of the earth? Oh, you weren't there. Tell me if you have understanding. Oh, sovereign one, Job. Who determines its measurements? Surely you know. Surely. Obviously. Since you're so wise, Job. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with the doors when it burst out from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed limits for it, and set bars and doors, and said, thus far shall you come, no further, and here shall your proud waves be stayed. Have you commanded the morning since your days began? and cause the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it. It is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and their uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, Job? Or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the gates of the deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all of this. Where is the way to the dwelling of light? Where does light exist? Where's light? Tell me where it comes from. Oh, okay. Where's the place of darkness? How about that one? No, Job, it's not when you close your eyes. That's not darkness. That you may take it to its territory. Can you get rid of darkness, Job? You just make it go away? And that you may discern the path to its home. You know, for you were born then, remember? And the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed? Where is the east wind scattered upon the earth? Who has left a channel for the torrents of rain and a way for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on the land where no man is, on the desert on which there is no man, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the ground sprout with grass? Has the rain a father, or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did the ice come from? And who has given birth to the frost of the heaven? The waters become hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains of Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion? Talking about the constellations. Can you lead forth the Mizareth in the season? Can you guide the bear with its children? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you establish their rule on earth, Job? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that a flood of waters may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings, that they may go and say to you, here we are? Who put wisdom in the inward parts, or given understanding to the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom? Who can tilt the waters of the heavens when the dust runs into a mass and the clods stick fast together? Chapter 38. God has spoken. Tell me how the world works, Job. Since you know so much. Since you claim to know me so much. Since you claim to be all righteous and so holy and so great. He's talking about the inanimate creation. He's talking about the heavens and the earth. Then he moves to creation in verse 39. Can you hunt the prey for the lion? Or satisfy the appetite of the young lions when they crouch in their dens, or lie in wait in their thickets? Who provides for the raven its prey when its young ones cry to God for help and wonder about for lack of food? Do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Do you observe the calving of the does? Can you number the months that they fulfill? Do you know the time when they give birth, when they crouch, bring forth their offspring, and are delivered of their young? Do you know? You know how to take care of these animals? Their young ones become strong. They grow up in the open. They go out and do not return. Who has let the wild donkeys go free? Who has loosed the bonds of the swift donkey? To whom I have given the arid plain for his home, and the salt land for his dwelling place. He scorns the tumult of the city. He hears not the shouts of the driver. He ranges the mountains as his pasture. He searches for every green thing. Is the wild ox willing to serve you, Job? Will he spend the night at your manger? Can you bind him in the furrow with ropes, or will he harrow the valleys after you? Will you depend on him because his strength is great? Will you leave him to your labor? Do you have faith in him that he will return your grain and gather it for your threshing floor? The wings of the ostrich wave proudly, but are they the pinions and plumage of love? For she leaves her eggs to the earth and lets them be warmed on the ground, forgetting that a foot may crush them and that the wild beast may trample them. She deals cruelly with her young as if they were not hers. Though her labor be in vain, yet she has no fear, because God has made her forget wisdom and given her no share in understanding. When she arouses to flee, she laughs at the horse and his rider. Do you give the horse his might? Do you clothe his neck with the mane? Do you make him leap like a locust? His majestic snorting is terrifying. His paws in the valley and exults in his strength. He goes out to meet the whippings. He laughs at fear and is not dismayed. He does not turn back from the sword. Upon him rattle the quiver, the flashing spear, the javelin. With fierceness and rage, he swallows the ground. He cannot stand still at the sound of the trumpet. When the trumpet sounds, he says, aha, he smells the battle from afar, the thunder of the captains and the shouting. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars and spreads his wings toward the south? Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high? On the rock he dwells and makes his home, on the rocky crag and stronghold. From there he spies out prey. His eyes behold it from afar. His young ones suck up the blood. Where the slain are, there he is. And the Lord said to Job, shall a fault finder contend with the Almighty? Shall a fault finder contend with the Almighty? He who argues with God, let him answer it. What's God saying here? I want you guys, we've read all of these things, and unless some of y'all say, why did he just read all of that? This is what what God is saying to Job. If you can't succeed with stewarding the totality of my creation, you think you can succeed with me in court? It takes him 2 chapters to explain the simple fact that, Job, you're running your mouth where you don't need to run it. You don't know me, Job. How strong are you? How wise are you? State your case now. If you can subdue this entire earth, if you can create, if you can tell the seas where to go and not where to go, if you can do that, then maybe I'll hear you. Job responds. Verse 3-5, then Job answered the Lord and said, behold, I am of small account. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand on my mouth. I have spoken once, and I will not answer twice, but I will proceed no further. What is Job saying? I got no case. I am of small account. I love the way it says it in the King James Version. It says, behold, I am vile. God shows up. God does the exact thing that he wanted him to do. He shows up. He responds. And Job's response is, behold, I am vile. I am nothing. I'm lost. I am trifling. I have no right debating with God. See, I thought I was faultless, but my own words have now condemned me. Proverbs 30:32 tells us this: if you have been a fool by being proud or plotting evil, cover your mouth in shame. Shut up. Listen, recognizing our own ignorance is the first step to true wisdom. We got so many people in this world who think they're so wise beyond measure, so many scholars, so many people who think they're the greatest and most brilliant minds, but the reality is some of them are just idiots. Job finally says, you know what? I'll shut up. I'll shut up. But God ain't done yet. Oh, no. What does he say in the next verse? Dress for action like a man. Oh, it ain't over, Job. You thought you could just come after me and then all of a sudden be quiet and go back into your little place? No. Step up. I will question you and you make it known to me. Will you even put me in the wrong? Will you condemn me that you may be in the right? Have you an arm like God? Can you thunder with a voice like God? He's like, listen, don't get quiet now, my boy. You had all that mouth. God is pinning Job on his own words. You had a lot to say, my boy. Time to answer up. You'll attribute injustice to me so you can look innocent? God is like, you think you're tough? You raise your voice to me like I'm one of your ignorant buddies that you've been hanging out with for these last few months? Here's the problem. Job had accused God of injustice in how he treated him. God, you showed me where I was wrong. You did this to me. So you tell me, come, give me your defense, God. Not only that, in other parts of Job, Job is accusing God for failing to judge wrongdoers. So you know what God says? Judge him. Here goes a reality. We do it too. We think we've been treated unfairly by God. God, I didn't deserve this. God, I shouldn't have got this. God, I shouldn't have gone through this situation. God, why is this happening to me? God, you know I've loved you. God, you know I've honored you. God, why would you let this happen to me? God, why are you treating me in contempt? I deserve better than this. Lest we be self-righteous and do that. We would love to say, well, God, how come that person? Well, God, I know what they're doing. Why would you come after me when they're the ones jacking up? We tell God that he's full of injustice because of the way he treats us and that God is light on everybody else. So God asked Job, do you have the strength and the holy wrath it takes to judge sinners? That's what he says. Adorn yourself with majesty and dignity. Clothe yourself with glory and splendor. Pour out the overflowings of your wrath and look on everyone who is proud and abase him. Look on everyone who is proud and bring him low and tread down the wicked where they stand. Can you even stomach judgment, Job? Start judging then. Hey, Job, do me a favor. If you think you're so bad, time for you to go humble the proud. Yep, go ahead and curse the sinners. Go ahead and crush the wicked. Bury them. You think you can do a better job than me at bringing justice to the world? Okay, Job, do it. Last verses, chapter 42. Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that you can do all things. I'm going to ask whoever's playing the key, who's playing me out, can you come up? I know that you can do all things, that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore, I have uttered what I did not understand. Things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. Hear, and I will speak. I will question you and make it known to me. This is an important statement that he's about to make. He says, I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. And how does he respond after seeing God, after he witnesses God, after he experiences God? Therefore, I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. Before he was put in dust and ashes because of his sickness, because of the tragedy. Now he puts himself in ashes and dust out of recognition that I have come against the holy God, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the one who is perfect in all his ways. How dare I challenge the God of heaven and earth to a duel and contend against me? Who am I? He says, man, I'm undone. I despise myself. I repent. Job was stunned and speechless. The only words he could find was words of repentance. If you're a note taker, because note takers are history makers, there's a few reflections from God's response to Job that I feel like we need to take on for ourselves. Now, let me tell you guys something. This is one of those messages that we don't like to hear. See, the first two messages identified with our pain, and we recognized it. We understood the persecution we may have felt in our lives and what people have done to us or what people have said about us or the mental frustrations that just plague us every single day. That's true. All of us carry something. We identified with persecution and pain. But today is a day about perspective. We can identify with the stupidity of Job. See, sometimes, guys, we get too proud. Especially as believers, we get to the point where we feel like, well, because I am, God shouldn't have. Because God is, then he shouldn't. Here's the first statement. God does not owe you anything. God does not owe you anything. Somebody get Jose. Number one, God does not owe you anything. Number two, God does not owe you relief. This is the truth. God doesn't owe you relief. Number three, God does not owe you an explanation. God does not need to prove his goodness to you. God does not need you to vindicate him. But God does want you to know him and see him clearly. And let me tell you this, you can only know him when you get quiet before him. So this is what I came to tell you, get quiet before God. Are you carrying pain? Are you carrying shame? Are you carrying frustration? Are you carrying hurt? Get quiet before God. See, Job had to quiet the noise of his wife. Job had to quiet the noise of his friends. And Job had to quiet the noise of his own voice so that he could hear God's voice. Warren Wiersbe says this, until we are silenced before God, he can't do for us what needs to be done. What needs to be done, not what we want to be done. It's huge. That's a big difference. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. As far as the east is from the west, so far removed is his thoughts from our thoughts. Unless we get quiet before God, he can't do for us what needs to be done. See, look, as long as we defend ourselves and argue with God, he can't work for us in us to accomplish his plan for us or through us. So here's my challenge to you. Get quiet before God. Here's why. God's presence purifies our perspective. It is the presence of God that gives us clarity. It is not the understanding of why we're going through what we're going through. It is not the explanation of why your situation is what it is. It is looking and beholding the face of God. Do we understand perspective? If you want to know how to get through that thing you're getting through, look at the face of God. There's clarity in the face of God. There's peace in the face of God. And true healing is found in the revelation of who God is. Our prayer should not only be heal me or give me perspective of my pain, but help me see you clearly and give me perspective of you. This is what Jesus says. In this world you will have trials and tribulations, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. He didn't say in this world you have trials and tribulation, but be of good cheer because you'll get to the other side. He says, I've overcome the world. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Look at me. And like Job exclaims in the book of Job, he says, behold, my Redeemer lives. And I pray for everybody in this room who's carrying something, whether it's pain, shame, sin, brokenness, whatever it may be. It's time to get your eyes off of your situation and put your eyes on God. Understand the creator of the heavens and the earth, the person who created you, the person who designed you, the one who holds the world in the palm of his hands. Only in the clarity of the true and living God will you find the perspective you need to carry him. God, we thank you that you're faithful. We thank you that you're good. We thank you, God, that you are our Redeemer and our Redeemer lives. We thank you, Jesus Christ, for being the perfect reflection of our Heavenly Father in truth, in justice, in goodness, and in grace. God, I pray that we'll get quiet before you. It's in Jesus' name we pray.